Hello, it's Roger here from the Grub Street in Exile. I'm going to do a video. I'm going to read a short piece from a blog and just explain a route around my blogging really since the beginning of this year. But first things first, last things first, and the last shall be first. A possible scenario for the future, the trilateral word fascism party, the Manifesto. So I put this blog out, and it's based on this volume set of, I think it's a book with a bunch of appendices, but it's pretty much the most comprehensive thing I've found, with an overview of the governance manipulation which we should all be very concerned about. And it's called Global Governance in the 21st Century, an overview of the elite forces controlling the world economy. And it's written and edited by Michael L. Chadwick and was published in 2007. I did do a video a couple of years back with a reading from part of it. And I'm just going to read from pretty much the last few words of part of a paragraph titled "A Possible Scenario for the Future," written in 2007. In the future, we may see the following scenario unfold as the forces of internationalism seek to bring about a new imperial system that will rival the old Roman Empire. Russia must control the Middle East in order to secure control of this region and the oil fields in the Arab nations. The Arab world will be guided further into the Russian camp. The Arab hatred for the Israelis will be carefully nurtured and promoted. The heated debate over Judea and Samaria will serve as the catalyst for the eventual election of strong conservative forces in the Israeli government. These leaders will take a bold stance, both diplomatically and militarily, against the Palestinians. The Arab world and Russia will invade the nation of Israel. Russia will cut off oil to the west. There will be a severe crisis in Europe, Japan, and the United States, and other parts of the world. Anarchy will reign. The people of the world will turn against Israel and demand its surrender to the Russian and Arab forces. The people of the Western world will call for their leaders to end the crisis. The people will be told that the only way to end this terrible conflict will be to accept a system of global governance under the new imperial system. The war in the Middle East creates economic chaos throughout the world. The elite face intense pressure from the conflict in the Middle East, and they begin to war among themselves. Military conflicts break out all over the world. The international financial, economic, and trading systems of the elite financial oligarchy collapse. Every stock market on earth crashes in a single day. Nuclear weapons are launched by various nations, and World War III is underway. The horrors of war, pestilence, and plague create unbelievable havoc throughout the nations of the earth. Billions of people are slain. The world's greatest tyranny is in the final stages of development. While this is just a scenario, many phases of it could occur in the near future. However, before this scenario or others similar to it occur, the evolving international financial and economic systems will need to be enlarged and strengthened. That process is currently underway and has been the subject of this treatise. As this system emerges and more political and economic sovereignty is transferred to international institutions, the flame of liberty is being gradually extinguished on the earth, and the world's greatest tyranny is emerging under a new imperial system. The philosophical foundation of the imperial world order. In order to guide the people and nations of the earth into a state of global governance, it was necessary for the elites in New York, Toronto, London, Frankfurt, Paris, Rome, and Tokyo to support a set of political, economic, social, and religious philosophies that would advance their long-term objectives. These philosophies included elitism, atheism, pantheism, rationalism, secularism, Marxism, higher criticism, relativism, Darwinism, uniformitarianism, Keynesianism, Freudianism, social Darwinism, socialism, internationalism, finance capitalism, monopoly capitalism, corporate socialism, fascism, existentialism, New Ageism, Nazism, Hegelianism, communism, legal positivism, civil law, environmentalism, Machiavellianism, materialism, consumerism, scientism, economic determinism, regimentizationism, hedonism, legalism, credentialism. These philosophies are the foundation of the imperial world order, an imperial world state that is under construction today. It is obvious that these philosophies result in a loss of freedom, economic chaos, stagnation, and oppression of the people. They are being promoted throughout the world today by the financial elite of the United States, Europe, Asia, and elsewhere, in order to subjugate the inhabitants of the earth. These philosophies centralize power in the hands of a few carefully selected individuals. The elite financial oligarchy. These philosophies led to the rise of communism in Russia, China, North Korea, Vietnam, Cuba, etc., the rise of Nazism in Germany and fascism in Italy, etc. Over 180 million people have died around the world because of wars and totalitarian systems of government. How many lives could have been saved and how much human suffering could have been avoided if the elite of the United States, Europe, Asia, and elsewhere had not supported the philosophies of communism, Nazism, fascism, socialism, finance capitalism, monopoly capitalism, etc. It was the international bankers of the Western world who financed the Boer War, the Japanese-Russian War, World War I and World War II, and so on and so forth, and it goes on. Now, there is a link to that document, which is here. This is a photograph of the page. I think that's the page this is taken from. Or that I think I took a photograph of it yesterday. There's some writings about the modern Machiavellian creed, and then this is the table of contents. So the table of contents, and this is about half of the appendices here. We're going to flick through the document just briefly in a minute, but as a precursor to this blog post, I did this blog post, the Paralleat Putsch 37 to 2006. So 2006 to 2024. So what I'm getting at there is Michael Chadwick published that in 2007. Obviously 17 years have passed since then, and we've gone past the Agenda 2020 cut-off date. We're headed at breakneck speed to Agenda 2030. 2025 is next year, which is kind of a halfway point. And I've entitled this blog, The Rising of the Rich Against the Poor. Now, I've been blogging for, it seems, quite a long time. It's since 2011. And as I retired in 2003, I've had more time than most people to sort of look into all of this sort of stuff. And so I'm just going to, I took a selection of blogs which are on the Grub Street Exile and also linked to the old Grub Street Journal stroke Roger's long-haired blog stroke Let Them Confess Sweeter Lies blog. They draw on a well of other blogs, Ranjan at London Conversation, John at The Slog, David Malone at Gollum X1V. There are lots of other Grand Theft World podcast, Richard Groves, David Starkey Talks. There are a lot. We're going to get to the mind map in a minute, and I'll name call some of the other, or name check rather than name call, because we all come at this from our different perspectives and our different worldviews, but one needs to put them all together to actually see within that list of philosophies, which Michael Chadwick links, they're all serving the ultimate purpose. So even where there are contradictions, so the contradictions all break for the exits in the same direction. So The Lost Science of Money, I started reading that on the plane the other day coming over to Sweden from the UK. It's by a guy called Stephen Zarlenga, who sadly passed away now, but he was the president of the American Monetary Association or Reform Association. He says at page 198 of Lost Science of Money, Calvin wrote the unfortunate statement that people must always be kept in poverty in order that they remain obedient. He also says that Belloc characterized the Reformation as a rising of the rich against the poor. That's the Reformation of the church, I guess. So anyway, this is a famous quote by Pauli, the physicist, who said it's not even wrong. It's not even wrong. It's not just not right. It's not even wrong. And that we've come to that pass in lots of things that happen in daily lives. When I watch a news story, for instance, it could be any news story, and I think, well, hold on, that just doesn't make sense. So name checking Bruce Charlton and his 4 inversions of news media about all news media basically is a lie of some form. This goes into the linguistics of language tricks, semiotics, semantics, etc. Wittgenstein's picture theory. It's an interesting blog, that one. Now, Grace Bakley was interviewed by Aaron Bastani on Novara Media the other day, and she's got this new book out about vulture capitalism. And in the Bastani interview, I commented to Ranjan, it's interesting more for what it leaves out than it actually says. I don't think there are omissions of deliberate omissions. I think it's being imprisoned in a worldview and shoehorning explanations which aren't necessarily. So I quote Schumpeter. That's where the Vicar of Wakefield quote comes in from. And then this is a quote from the Rhetoricians Vade Vecum by Lucian, which is a satire talking about sophist orators. Bring then above all ignorance, to which add confidence, audacity, and effrontery. As for diffidence, equity, moderation, and shame, you'll please leave them at home. They're not merely needless, etc. This is a quote from Queen Mab, where Shelley says nature rejects the monarch, not the man. And this refers to another interview that Aaron Bastani did with George Galloway. Then this is a reference to the guide for the perplexed, Maimonides, Say Yes to Life. This is Ben McGrady, the last druid, who mentions Pelagius. Thinking Dimensions, it's a blog that I did some time ago, again examining these different worldviews. Here's Bruce Charlton, Addicted to Distraction. Consists of 4 categories: good presented as bad, bad presented as good, simple inversion, good presented as good for a bad reason, bad presented as bad for a bad reason. That's explanatory inversion. Then we get to Edmund Burke, present discontents and integral analysis of the present discontents. I also, there's a series of 5 blogs I did towards an integral analysis of the oligarchy, drawing on Michael Hudson's super imperialism, for instance. So this caricature of Thomas Paine, end of the national debt and larger loaf of bread. That was the slogan of the Pentrish uprising. And this is a scene from Garrow's Law. There's a really good courtroom speech in there about liberty. On COVID-19, this is a satire that I did, taking the piss out of some of the highfalutin language that tries to give the impression it's saying something, but of course it's sort of just glossing over a whole bunch of nonsense. Quod erat demonstrandum, doubling back to make sense of the doubling down, corrupting the morals of Monica. There's a ChatGPT post. Climate change, land use, and monetary policy: the new trifecta. Now that's an excellent book that's recommended in that, which is really worth buying. My post about Aadhaar, which really is the backdoor into the central bank control that Michael Chadwick was referring to in 2007, a reality-based community graph-fitting and political graft. This is about enshittification of the internet, Karl Rove's famous quote, etc. This goes back then to Richard Moore's interview in 2007 with Sue Cipriani on the Stepping Out of Babylon radio. It was a podcast, a proto-podcast almost. That's Ben Griffin supporting the motion, or proposing the motion, this house will not fight for Queen and country. Curiously enough, George Galloway appeared in a recent reprise of this, or a variation on that motion. It's my poem, The Magic Money Tree. So I believe that finance capital is at the core of this, and the way that money is done has for millennia actually caused basically enslavement of most people for the benefit of the financial power parasitic elite. Now, this is a review I did of the 30th anniversary of Horizon, which was produced by my good friend David Malone in 1994, and I explained why the BBC were upset with him for actually making that film. They, them, us. So this is a bit more esoteric, a bit more occult, occult in terms of the mystical as opposed to the merely hidden. And Ranjan and I had an interesting chat about that. But they, them, or us, well, the parasitic global elite are human beings. They come from their own sort of class background, but they're human beings too. However misguided they are, or their enablers and immediate retainers are, they're deluded in their superiority complexes. And the simple fact is that they're not nearly as powerful. You give them too much power if you give them credit. And I must say, I think that they've fielded much better teams in the past than they're fielding right now. And I suspect that's simply because you have to hold your nose so hard at this current state of the wheels coming off. So I'm actually pretty optimistic. I'm not you know, I don't get excited about this. I don't spit my dummy out, wet the bed, and throw my toys out the pram. This is a well-researched blog that's clearly Michael Chadwick's treatise is well, I would say peerless. I found out about him because he wrote the forward to the reprint of Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. I think that's very good for the broad sweep of history. Michael Chadwick kind of picks up where, well, he really picks up in the American Revolutionary War and forward from there, but really gets going more towards the 20th century and the 21st century. So some of the interviews, I was interested to read part of the interview between Chris Moyles, I think it's Chris Moyles, I'll get to that in a minute, and David Rockefeller, which was in Yugoslavia. I've seen parts of that. It was a television series, but it's really quite it's not exactly widely available on the web, and the full thing I haven't been able to find. Rock Thrown in the Pond, the Great Walter Burien. I think that's one of the best essays that I've found on all of this, which boils it down. You'll find it at this link. Integral analysis of the oligarchy, as I just mentioned. A controlling mindset. We're stardust, we're golden, we're billion-year-old carbon. If dirt were dollars, I'm going to play out with that, actually. I'm not sure if I can get it to play the sound, but we'll take a chances. Then these books were in a blog I did a couple of years ago. America's 60 Families from 1937 by Ferdinand Lumbury. The Rich and Super Rich, a study of the power of money today, Ferdinand Lumbury in 1968. And then Who Rules America, Power Politics and Social Change in 2006. And that is by William Domhoff. Domhoff actually had a book out about Bohemian Grove before Alex Jones went, and what's he called, Ronson, the Stereo Goats guy, interviewed him. This blog I did February the 15th this year, my manifesto against the theory and practice of oligarchical collectivism. Here we are, John Ronson, Stereo Goats, and Alex Jones, InfoWars and mainstream media own goals. Are they own goals? Are they deliberate? Then The 1%. This is a very good film made by the heir to the Johnson & Johnson, or part of the Johnson & Johnson fortune. So this is just a chat GPT breakdown of the sorts of things it says, which confirms all the stuff in Michael Chadwick. Episode 2, Manners and Morals of High Capitalism. This is an excellent series made by David Malone's father, Adrian Malone. This does some Torsten Veblen, The Last Gilded Age, really, that goes into Rise and Fall of Money. This is a very good film, less than an hour long, on monetary history. It's well worth watching. This is basically where we headed and where we're coming from. This is what happened in Chile after Allende was assassinated with the help of the CIA and implemented Milton Friedman's policies. This is an excellent talk by Janine Weddell, who's interviewed about her book, The Shadow Elite, How the World's New Power Brokers Undermine Democracy, Government and the Free Market. It's on the Internet Archive, but limited view, so I put a link to it on LibGen so people can download that. She has been the recipient of a Gourmet Award. Now I had a look at that. Philip E. Tetlock, his work on why we accept experts being wrong all the time is really interesting. And this fella, Stephen Feldstein, won it in 2023, talking about how technology is reshaping power, politics, and resistance. Right, then this blog, what follows, is akin to when the main character, Winston, in 1984, starts reading a copy of the Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism. Well, that links to this blog, The Technocratic Tyranny, which is done by a computer network programmer called Vicky Davidson. She's been doing it for a long time. And if you start in 1992 and the launch of the Green New Deal, everything is in there in some detail with contemporary video, which backs up the appendices at the end of Chadwick's work, which we'll have a quick look at in a minute. Climate change, land use, and monetary policy, the new trifecta. There it is again. And then this is a link to the blog that I did on this previously. I think if we just press open link, that's on the old Grub Street. Oh damn, I thought I changed that. Obviously not. Aha, oh you. Right, hold on. I don't know what I've done there. Just let me just figure this out a second. Oh look, you can work out how to do that yourself. If you can't find one of these old blogs on the way back machine by now, you're not even have got this far with this video. Actually, there it is. Yeah, it is there. It was on the 18th of January 2022, so I was obviously home here in Sweden and had a bit of spare time. And then it finishes with this light-hearted Alexander Zineviev's The Yawning Heights, one of the most withering satires of Soviet Union, as lots of people say, are reminded of the current turn of events in the States and in Europe of the Soviet Union. Actually, that's a point which is made by Janine Weddell in the Shadow Elite book in the interview. The thing is there. So that's that. Right, now on the Going Direct mind map, there are links to the mind map of these blogs. I've put Michael Chadwick under the QED tag, and under the QED tag, if you click on that, you'll find all the blogs that are still on the main internet where I've done QED, which are longer blogs, a bit like this one. So you can look at those if you want to. And then here's Chadwick's book here. So you can see it's Global Governance in the 21st Century, an overview. Okay, so the conclusion, the establishment of imperial world state, is at page 1741. So that's up here somewhere. We'll just go up here. I've got quite a quick internet connection here, but it's such a big document, it takes a little while. Right, part 12, conclusion, the establishment of imperial world state, merger of economies of the Western world, gradual evolution of a global system of governance, management of the emerging world state, nation state as a hindrance to the development of a new imperial system. Wealth has been concentrating over the last 300 years throughout the world. Now that's an interesting point, which when you think the Bank of England got to the UK in 1694, I think it was, the Whig junto brought that in. I refer to Rishi Sunak's government as the Sunak junto. Look it up. The multinational corporate director actively promotes a global trading and production system in order to create international cartels and monopolies. This is monopoly capitalism. The international banker and investment banker work actively to promote a global monetary and financial system in private hands, controlled at the international level by global institutions, which are not accountable to national governments and the people in various nations. This is finance capitalism. The process is now completely intertwined and interlocked, as to be nearly indistinguishable. For the last 300 years, wealth has become more and more concentrated as mergers, acquisitions, and alliances have resulted in international cartels in nearly every area of business activity. If the mergers, acquisitions, and alliances continue at their present pace over the next several decades, the largest multinational corporations, international banks, and global investment houses will control all business activity on the earth. Right, through the process of interlocking directorates, the top 500 corporations are beginning to resemble a giant world corporation which is able to control the destiny of the earth. Bingo, there you have it. So I'm just going to wrap up with that and just come back here and just explain. So here's the elite push 37 to 2006 I went through. Then the other thing I'm going to do then is just, if I click top there instead of latest, you get the blogs that are so Ardha. This one by Kevin Galilei is excellent. It's an old presentation now, and at the time he made it, it was very hard to believe, but it actually reads like a news report after the last few years, people. I've just got to tell you that. Carbon currency endgame unfolds. That explains my analysis leading to the theory that 16:1 is the ratio of good carbon to bad carbon, and that's where the part of the trying to trick the Arabs into submitting to carbon trading as a means of getting control of the oil. There's a Finnish geological survey document, 700 or 800 pages, which I studied 2.5, 3 years ago now, where they actually described the Arab governments as peak oil ignorant. Well, you know, you make of that what you will, but I think that the hubris and ignorance is really on the part of the author of that report. Insider trading before 9/11, Clue, investigate insider trading before COVID, the Panopticon jailer bot, that's all to do with surveillance capitalism, rock thrown in the plan, there's Walt Berrien again, real precogs now, etc. That's a reference to Minority Report and predicting future crime and all this sort of thing. So it's basically the old free will against determinism. That is Parmenides against Heraclitus, and free will overcome the deluded hard materialist soulless, sad, I don't know. You know, I did a blog the other day saying that we led. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. What was the headline I put up? A nation of automatons led by lunatics. It's talking about geoengineering, that one. Anyway, have a look round. Have a look at Chadwick's thing. It's an excellent index and an excellent table of contents, so you can sort of dig around and find stuff that's harder to find. I did promise to look at the appendices, didn't I? So let's just go here. Appendix A. I mean, I think they're go to Appendix F. Here's Appendix A. And I started making these into pictures. Oh, this is the Bill Moyers interview actually with David Rockefeller, which I was reading earlier. It's still open at that page. Rockefeller's hotel suite, Bill Moyers. Yugoslavia, where we are today, is a communist country, although non-aligned. How do you deal one day with a communist government and the next day with a capitalist country? What's the difference in your approach? David Rockefeller. Well, I have to say that having been in this business now for 33 years, I find one has to be very pragmatic and flexible about these things, and that relations with governments, regardless of the political label that's attached to them, depends to a large extent on people and human relationships. And just because a country is technically called communist doesn't mean that a capitalist institution such as the Chase Bank can't deal with them on a mutually beneficial basis. And indeed, we do deal with most of the so-called communist countries of the world on a basis that has worked very well, I think, for both of us. And didn't it just? There's another one here where it's answering questions about doing business with odious regimes. Anyway, that wasn't the bit I was going to show. I was going to go to the here we are. Here's all the appendices. Look now. So that's the interviews. There are interviews with all of these luminaries, some of who I've not ever heard of, some of them who I have. But then it's got appendixes of declarations from various economic summits. So the blog which I mentioned in this post is definitely very good on those things as well. It'd be good for cross-referencing. The Technocratic Tyranny, which is Vicky Davidson's blog. But as I say, there is a ton of stuff there. It's a document, it's a historical document, it's pretty plain speaking, and I'm not persuading anybody of anything. You know, maybe you agree with all this stuff. Well, this will give you a full picture of what you actually agree with. I disagree. I think it's deluded. And I also do think the subtext of eugenics, population control, and all the rest of it. I think Bill Gates is a criminal. He should be behind bars on many, many levels. It's a mystery to me why the investigations into the monopolistic practices that the EU carried out in the late 90s didn't go further. Well, I know really. Were they show things? I'm not really sure. What I do know is that after 9/11, the black hats got a grip of this situation, and I do think there are black hats and white hats. You know, there are factions. Chadwick goes into factionalization within the elites. I make no bones about it. I'm an establishment person. I believe we should reoccupy the establishment. That's what I'm saying. I think we should take back control of the levers of power. Even the ones we weren't aware of as existing as our former selves. I studied economics at O level and A level, and I was an interested student. I read land economy. I became a chartered surveyor. Land economists are generally considered to be pretty thick if they do it at Cambridge. But the point is that what we're taught is riddled with contradictions. I refer to my own ideas there. Anyway, what I did say I would do is give some shout outs to some of the other blogs which, you know, I read. I don't agree with all of them, but, you know, I do read a lot of stuff because I like to get a good rounded set of so this is the So I'm the brain builder here. Where's everyone? Let me just put here. Right, here's the slog. The 4 pamphleteers, so that's John at the Slog, Ranjan at London Conversation, me at the Grub Street in Exile, and David Malone at Gollum X1V. But then I've got blogs here, which has actually got Ian Davis's logo there. The Disillusioned blogger in this together. So that's Ian Davis's blog. Technocratic Tyranny, that's the one I was just telling you about. This is the About Tim Geelan play. So there's Johnny Vedmore, Mint News, Real Currencies, Stepping Out of Babylon, the 4 pamphleteers, UK Column, The Wrong Kind of Green, Ian R. Crane, Ian Davis, Gail Trevberg, who I don't agree with, Dr. Tim Morgan, Caesar, who I don't agree with, Dmitry Orlov, CJ Hopkins. I subscribed to Ugo Bardi's blog the other day. I'm not sure if he returned the compliment. It wasn't a compliment, by the way. I just, you can see here, Ugo Bardi, insane. I consider a lot of these climate extremists to be insane. Catastrophists, mild, sane, insane. Ugo Bardi, Tim Morgan, Roger Hallen, insane catastrophist, etc. But anyway, eco-science, the population agenda, these links all work and they go to all various stuff, but all roads may as well lead back to Michael Chadwick, then to Tragedy and Hope. Francis Leader. I'm gonna actually sign off. Just get Francis up, because Francis's work on 5G is really, really important. So 5G. Right, Francis Leader, 5G control, good. COVID-19, the Oxford connection, surplus energy, 5G, exposing the Roman Empire too, that's Francis, the Venetians, black nobility, etc. That's the parasitic power elite. The Medicis were bankers. But it goes back to ancient Babylon, folks. The Code of Hammurabi, for instance. If you look at the Lost Science of Money, that goes way, way back when. And it's mainly follow the money, how the money's created, what money is, and there you'll find the control. Robert Tressel's The Great Money Trick, in his book, Ragged Trousered Philanthropist. Anyway, so I did that. I've mentioned Francis, I've mentioned the other bloggers. Is there anything else I was going to do? What I was going to do was play out with If Dirt Were Dollars. So let's just, I think I've got if Dirt Were Dollars. Here we are. Well, darling, well, darling, I'm worrying anymore. If dirt were dollars, I wouldn't worry anymore. So we're just going to sign off with that, and good day, good day.